Hi everyone, it's Amiga Rob here. I thought I'd just make a video because I've had a thought and I'd like to put it out there. And if I did it in a live stream, it wouldn't be right because I'd meander off, and I want to make sure I get this right. Um, I've been thinking about um, why I had an interest in computers originally, and the thought that always comes to mind is that I wanted a television that you could control in some way. You know, that I like the idea of controlling the TV in some way. And the first system I had, which I will do more on one day, is the Acetronic 2000, which was based on the uh, advanced MPU 1292 programmable platform. Um, Probably one of the most simple programmable cartridge systems out there. I love the analog controller, but I'm getting off the point. But that in that context, you're very much, it's the basics of being able to control something on a television and make sounds. Um, and through that, the kind of abstract way it works, it allows you sort of go into another world. For example, there's the game with that circus type game where a guy jumps off a trapeze or something, and you have to move a little seesaw thing, ping, and the other guy goes over and ping, and you have to ping them and hit some boxes at the top. You can get points for it and that kind of stuff. So it kind of puts you in the world, and they have this great box art on those things, and it's so there's a kind of control, but I've started to think maybe a bit of it is about the world in general, which is a bit of a wide and sweeping statement. But what I mean by that is that um, the world, and this will sound like another sweeping statement, but the world is a really bad place, and we're quite good, particularly in the UK. We sort of, I think we know what good looks like. We know what expectations should be. It's not quite the same in other parts of the world. And while we know what good should look like, we quite often don't get there. And things are changing all the time. I think we go a little bit up, a little bit down in that regard. Um, and I've mentioned it a few times on my channel, but I'm involved. Well, inquiring, offering some consultation, I guess, trying to support a few people that are really trying to make a difference with issues of childhood sexual exploitation and abuse and trafficking. And some of the stories I hear, I've heard some of the things that people have told me that have happened to them, and we're talking about perfectly ordinary people. You know, people that you wouldn't look at twice in the street that have got these stories that you wouldn't think were possible. Um, some of these people have been through absolutely very well, just incredible things, just things that you would not wish upon anyone. Um, Even in a civilized country or nation like the UK, these things can happen, and they have always happened to some degree, and sometimes they happen in new ways now. The world is a very horrible place, and just the last couple of weeks I've been trying to help um, in a situation that is, I can honestly say, it's probably the worst couple of weeks of my life. It's been really very stressful trying to deal with an issue, and um, it reminded me in a strange way about what, when these computers came out, what they offered, which is maybe a bit more than controlling a TV. It's actually creating a world, and giving you that world you can interact with. Now, I know you hear people say that, but maybe I've never made the connection. But I'm really thinking, yeah, it is like a world. It's your opportunity, and with some systems, early systems, you could start doing it. I think the Amiga is where that really start, where you create, what you could be a programmer or an artist and say, this is the world I want to create. And I don't think it's any surprise that so often those worlds people created were actually quite happy looking worlds. Particularly on the Amiga, they were colourful, happy looking worlds, and that's part of the benefit you got from the Amiga with its palette and everything. You could do that. You could create these very vibrant worlds. Its RGB output was not compromised. It was a very good system for color clarity. And I'm just going to slide off for a second and do no edit while I just wipe my nose, because I don't do that on camera. So it was I think it really was a great pioneering system, and the ability to create worlds is something very powerful, and I'm not sure if we've seen it in many other areas of life, really. That ability, at that point where you could say, well, we're going to do a Monkey Island. I know it came out on PC as well, but I'm going to do a Monkey Island, or I'm going to do a any number of the games that have come out, like a Jim Power, or these colourful, where you can define what the world is. And in this world, the bad guys are the ones that are trying to fire this strange gun at you that looks nothing like in real life. And then they're not creeping about trying to, be predators towards people. You don't get these people creeping about. And in this person's world, these are what the baddies are. They're very clear what they are. That's a baddie over there. We know who he is. The reality in life is very different as to what the baddies are and who they are and what they're up to, and the lines are a lot more blurred. There were more subtle games and subtle worlds, but what the platforms like the Amiga did was give everyday people the chance to make their own worlds. Make their own worlds and how they want it to work and what they want the conclusion to be to that. And well, this is where I start sounding a bit, John Lennon. But with the technology we've got, we need to connect with each other to start making the real world a better place. And I really believe that part of that, we can take that from the retro community. I think it shines through, because I think that it's certainly the UK community, but generally, the overarching feeling I get is of people who liked being in their own worlds, creating their own worlds. You hear that from the developers with the Retro Hour. I love listening to that program, because so often they're talking to people that you listen to them and they're saying, we were making our own worlds. That's effectively what they're saying. We did all this art and everything, and we were making our own world. And that mentality, the mentality of those people, is often it seems very constructive. It seems very nice. It's very friendly. That's where I want us to be. That's where I want this world to be. And we can aspire to that. And we need these people with that kind of outlook to be in charge of things and setting the standards. And I just think the retro thing is a really good microcosm of how things should be, and a great example of humanity taking art forms, getting access to art forms, and translating it into things they want to see. And once you can see it, once you can project those things, then you have to, and with technology giving us the communication power, we have to go out and make those things happen. Now, at the minute, we're in an adolescent phase of this. It's very childish, but it's changing. It's changing. It is changing. I've mixed with people across the spectrum, the full spectrum of what you can see in terms of politics on Twitter and other social media. I've done it. I've done the full range, pretty much, and I can see it's in an adolescence, and I can see that there's a lot of televangelists, and there's a lot of of things like that happening. We need people with the retro mindset, the constructive mindset that has gone, where there isn't that much drama. People are interested in getting things done. We need to apply that to social problems. It's a fantastic template for how we can resolve problems, and it has to be pragmatic. And that's another thing that we've got with the retro. Why it's such a great example of how social media should work, and how video creation and all the rest should work. And is that people have an issue, they fix it, and they go for it. I remember years ago now, I went to the Amiga site, and I did a post, and I said, because I saw lots of people saying, we can't find faster CPUs, we can't get faster CPUs for Amiga, so we can't really, it's starting to run out of supplies of CPUs. And I said, is it not possible to use FPGA? Is that not possible? I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about the electronics of it. I don't know how difficult it is. And there was a thread of people saying, no, not possible, you can't do that. No, it's ridiculous. Da, 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 da. So people went through it. A couple of years later, somebody built the thing, the vampire thing. You have to have those, have to have people like me or other people that don't know just go, well, can we not just do this? And people go, no. And then other people jump in and go, hang on a minute, maybe we can do it. Maybe we can put the logic in that will make it work. That's what we need. People, that drive, the drive that people have got to play Mario on a Raspberry Pi on a simulated CRT. We need that drive towards fixing serious social problems that we have. And I'm not talking about what you might read in the Labour Party manifesto or the Conservative manifesto. I'm talking about real problems, primary rights of human beings, sexual rights, the right to not be molested by people, the right to be able to get on about your business without being harassed by people, the right to express your sexuality in an appropriate fashion, but be able to express it at all, not to have to hide it, no matter where you live, who you are, where you're born, what your heritage is, being able to say whatever you are without fear in this country, because that's the way we operate. And we need to protect the people that need protection. We need to protect people that have mental health problems, that are vulnerable. We need to protect people who are in states of drug addiction and are not able to get out of it, that are slaves to that. We need to protect those people. We need to come up with practical solutions to protect those people. We need to have practical solutions for dealing with the problems of drugs and being pragmatic about it. We need to have the retro mindset to deal with those problems. The solution, pragmatic solutions, engineering solutions, not politicians' solutions who will go around generally in circles forever, and you'll never get any solution, because as soon as you've got a solution, we don't need them. They need to string this out, and injustice, social injustice doesn't fix problems. So that's what we need, and that's why the retro community, and I don't like using the word community, but I'm using it. This group of retro people that are so pragmatic, that come up with solutions to things, we need them, that mentality, to be used as the example for everything that happens in politics. Everything. Because these are people, these are world makers. These are people that are trying to create their own, and we're lucky because there isn't much politics in it. A few people try and do a bit of politics. I've done a bit of it, but I try to avoid. I don't want to talk, not on this channel. I don't want to talk about it. But we need the people that are creating worlds in their head and projecting out these worlds, these potential ideal worlds, to be out there setting the example for how to achieve things and how to get things done. We need pragmatists will improve things for people. We're not in a horrific situation in the UK at the minute, but I think a few people think things are a bit worse in areas where they're not so bad, and in other areas I think a few people, maybe you'd think if they had that much of a social conscience, they'd be a little bit more worried and be trying to fix things. There's an awful lot of, well, it's one of those problems, you'll never get on top of it kind of thing. I've seen a lot of that in the last couple of years with problems that it's not acceptable to say that. And if we have people who can look at things like a Motorola CPU, and people go, there's no way you can put a field programmable array on there, it can't happen, and then someone goes, you can do it. There's always a way. People figure out ways. If there's a way, someone will find it. And that's what we need to do to protect people from exploitation in this country and elsewhere, and to protect people from genuine bigotry that stops people being able to enjoy their lives and have freedom in their lives. We need that kind of pragmatic attitude that we do so well in the retro scene. So well, so brilliant at doing that. They are qualities that are, if you're talking about British qualities, they are British qualities. And I'm not a nationalist, but they are British qualities to find the solution, to get to the end of it. And or they should be British qualities. Put that way, we should aspire to it, and they shouldn't just be British qualities. They should be qualities across the world. And we as a group of people, and I know I'm on the fringe, and I've got a little audience, but it one of the reasons I like doing it is because, and following this stuff is because of the drive, the pragmatism, and the solutions that people come up with to problems, and it gives me some hope, and genuinely it does. And I was part of the reason I was thinking this way was I was wondering why I do enjoy listening to Ravi and Dan Wood's show with Joe. I called him the other fella on a tweet I did the other day, but I did a tweet and I just said, when I'm having a tough time, I do like listening, and part of it is because they speak to people who came up with pragmatic solutions for things they were told you'd never be able to do that, who took as much or every ounce of skill they had to make things happen. And very much that's what the Amiga as a platform is and was. And the solutions that people are coming up with now are interesting in that regard. There's problems that existed 30 years ago that people are still like, I want to fix that problem, and they're doing it, even though the pragmatic use is probably not so much. But it's good, and I like it. And I wanted to say it because I do think that it's so easy to get lost in how gloomy things can be, or to bury your head in the sand and go everything's sunshine and lollipops. And I can't do that. I don't do either. But what I do is I try and look at things and make them not worse than what they are, and try and encourage people where things are hard, and where people have had hard things happen. I try to encourage, and I know there's a lot of people, even in the retro group, retro sort of thing, that are having a lot of problems, that do struggle. Maybe that's part of the reason they get driven towards the retro scene, where you can create your own worlds and you can keep away from stuff. But it's really, I think it's really encouraging that people can think this way. And anyone that's having a hard time now, and I know there are people that are having a hard time. Well, of course there is. It's. I think you're in the right sort of group, the right sort of attitudes here. It's a good group of people. If you're going to be in an online group of people, there doesn't seem to be too much squabbling, and there's some real encouraging, good stuff happening. So I appreciate you watching this video. It might seem like a bit of a ramble. And it is, but it just this thing is just where there's a little bit of hope for me. I'm not really a hope person, but there's a little bit of hope there. There's a signposts to where I think generally social media should be going, which is a very destructive thing. I know I've looked at the political sphere in great detail, and I do not see too many genuine people. Some people are kind of genuine, some people that are genuine, but some kind of genuine, some not so genuine. And I just think some fraud. But I just think that what the retro scene is pretty good. People believe in what they're doing, they're interested, and I always sort of thought, well, it's kind of frivolous, but it isn't. It isn't, because I think it does show an example. It does show an example, and it's nice. There's something about that scene. The particularly when I remember just saying, this is where the art is happening on the Amiga PD demos and everything. I thought this is where the art's happening when I was 11, 12, 13, 14. I thought this is where the music is. This is where it's happening. the music is not good at the minute, you know. And until the Amiga went, that's pretty much I think how it was. And there was a bit of music came back, some good videos came out and stuff. But the Amiga was the people's art form for a while. It didn't get the attention it deserved, and it was where people could visualize their own worlds. And it's been good, and that kind of spirit, it's nice to see that and remember that, and what potentially, when you had your computer and you were in control of it and you could draw the pictures, you had access to do it digitally and put it on the screen where it was, volatile, you switch it off and it's gone. You can manipulate this, you could animate, my friends have gone in. I had a friend who's one of the top guys in computer graphics now. Another friend who works over at the BBC as one of the top guys. It gave these people access to careers they probably would not have had access to otherwise. And it gave me a grounding that's, maybe I'm not rich and but I've done a few things that I wouldn't have done without the experience I learned, what I learned from that, the technical things I learned. And it's that kind of spirit is still around. We're all sort of in our late 30s and heading into our 40s now, if we're not there already. And certainly us Amiga people. And I think, yeah, it's a good group. It's nice to see it. Nice to still see, new people I wasn't aware of that are out there that have that same attitude and probably thinking the same thing as me. As the focus flicks in and out on my camera. Look, I appreciate you watching this ramble. It's heartfelt, and I hope I've got across what I'm trying to get across. I'm getting fed up with the reflection on the glasses already. I hope it comes across what I'm trying to get. It's a bit all over the place, but look, be excellent to one another, as I said on Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Look out for each other. Always remember, keep your eyes peeled. There's lots of naughty things going on, and the law always like to hear about it. Well, sometimes they do. And watch out for your friends and all the rest, and keep on doing good stuff. Don't get into squabbles. Don't get into all the political side of stuff. And thanks for watching. I'll come back with a live stream at some point, I guess, but look out for people. Take care, everyone. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, if you wish to subscribe, push the subscribe button that's around somewhere, and notifications for my live streams. Blah 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 blah. It feels a bit cheap doing this. Goodbye.